Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started as soon as I see. Just waiting on, we're going to have Leo on today, and we're going to go over a few things. If you guys want to, let's see what's going on here. So Travis is, he's out with his family. His daughter graduated this weekend. You guys might have saw that. Doesn't have cell service where he's at. So I'm going to run a quick little thing here. I think you guys are fortunate. You're going to get me next week too. I don't know what we're going to talk about. So if you want and you have something specific that you're interested in, please go ahead and post that on there. Let's see. There we go. All right. Leo on. Boom, boom, boom. You hear me, Leo?
Yeah, I hear you. Oh, perfect. You can hear me.
Yep.
Good morning, everyone.
All right. All right. So as I was saying, so Travis is off. His daughter graduated. They had a big party this weekend. I was gonna go up, but my wife, she pulled rank and said since it's our yesterday was our 12th anniversary, so we had to do anniversary stuff, which with my arm has been kind of lame, so I wasn't super excited about it. And but we had a fun weekend. We just hung out together, which would have been, it's pretty much what all we're doing as long as I have this sling on. So we'll just keep celebrating our anniversary over and over and go from there. So today we're going to talk with Leo about just some different ideas, how mainly what with the lenders that work at with Tried and True. The biggest thing that I've been kind of focusing on with those guys and with our topics is really just staying in touch with people, like staying active. So I brought Leo on because he's the expert for us, you know, of ways he can use social media, other ways that we can do follow-up, stay in contact with clients. He has a few little tools and things that he's going to bring up for us. But, you know, it's in my experience, you know, over 15 years in this industry, it's been like, you know, the slower that it gets, the easier it is to get distracted doing something other than our daily tasks, and we lose focus. And what I don't want to happen to anybody is that you guys stop being top of mind, stop being, you know, consistent with what you're doing to get the business that you're getting now, and see this as an opportunity to, you know, definitely it is a little slower. So, you know, doing any type of CE or new trainings that you are interested in or have been interested in, this is definitely a good time to do that because it keeps you focused on the business, and it gets you educated while instead of having to be in a training when you're worried about working with a client when you're much more busy. So that's a big thing you can be doing right now. But what I don't want is you guys to, you know, move away, start focusing on different things and get out of the habits of doing your emails and your follow-ups, your phone calls, your social posts and things like that. So kind of what I want to talk with Leo about is, you know, basically, you know, different ideas here and some tools, some apps, things like that. Just 2-3 ways that you guys can, you know, stay in contact with your database, your future clients, leads, things that people that you're working with, and go from there. Let's get started. I'm going to start with our, not really so much a mortgage update, but just kind of an update of what's going on, what I see from my perspective in with the real estate market and some data. So I have access to San Diego MLS. And so we're going to use that as an example. I'm going to assume that, especially throughout California, we're going to see similar trends of what I'm going to show you. Currently, rates they haven't changed. They're still in the mid fives, right around there. You know, the better credit situation you have, the better rate you're going to get. That's definitely, you know, your credit score right now is a huge factor in getting the best rate possible. What I've been talking about over the weekend with a couple of clients is their concern about going with the 30-year fixed, which they feel both clients I had this conversation with feel that that is a much safer opportunity and then going with like a 7 or a 10-year arm. And I think both of them are correct in that aspect. The 30-year fixed is definitely going to be the safest because for the next 30 years, 360 payments, your mortgage payment is not going to change. If you forget, it's not that big of a deal. You don't have to do anything. It's not going to go up on you. But with a 10-year arm, you are concerned with two things. One, I got to get out of this sooner or later because I know that my mortgage rate is going to go up. One of the clients that I have that's buying new construction right now, they will have a $350,000 loan. Their current offer for a 30-year fixed is putting them right about 5.7%, and a 10-year arm for them is going to be right around 4.6, a whole point difference. And that's going to save them, if they go with a 10-year arm, it's going to save them about very close to $260, $270 a month. They're putting 20% or 21% down, so they're over that hump. So no PMI, trying to do as much as they can. Their loan's not huge. The property they're buying is actually really great value at just 450 grand for new construction. It's pretty far out of the city, but for value of the actual property, it's an incredible value. So, but what I was explaining to them was, okay, the difference right now between this decision today, going with the 10-year arm for your scenario versus the 30-year fixed, over the course of a year, this client is going to save about $3,000. So we'll use that number. We're going to use about, now what history has shown us is that rates that have been this high at the fives, which we've been hearing the media talk about since 2009. Since 2009 till now, they've also been in the fives 3 other times. And in between those 5 different times, they've been down into the 3s. This last time, during COVID, they got into the 2s, which was manufactured. But so I have historical data to show both of these clients that most likely in the next 3 to 4 years, based on history and repeated history, not just once, but repeatedly, that rates will drop from 5 down to potentially into the 3s. I don't think we're going to see 2s, but maybe I've seen, forecasts of that. But, so the example would be, okay, they've put over, their loan to value is over, is less than 80%. So they can do a refi. They have decent credit right now. They're in the high 7s. If they continue their financial life as the way they are, in 3 to 4 years, they'll probably still have high credit. So that's 2 things. And most likely, they're going to probably have the same or better jobs. So they'll potentially qualify for the refi when rates go down. Now, everybody that you guys are working with right now should be focusing on acquiring their property so they can move into their new place, start their life, and start building equity. And then focusing with your help and the help of their lender, focusing on watching the market, paying attention to when they can quickly refi and either get a lower rate or get out of their adjustable rate mortgage. So going back to our example, let's say we're going to go 3 years out. In 3 years, the situation comes up where rates drop. Let's say they don't drop much, but something else has happened, and these clients are concerned that rates aren't ever going to drop as low as they hope they would. But they've dropped down to a 30-year fix is about 5% now. Now, that's higher than their current 10-year, but the husband's been worrying for the last 3 years. It bothers him. She says, he calls me, he says, I wake up at night worrying about this. I'm going to get screwed. My dad got screwed in the early 80s when this situation happened. I get it. So I look at the rates and we say, okay, great. Let's do a refi. We can get you into a fixed 30-year fixed mortgage for about 5%. Your payment's going to go up a little bit. Actually, it'll probably still, well, no, it's going to still go up a little bit. Very small amount, maybe $50. We'll say $50, but it's never going to go up again for the next 30 years. Now, that doesn't sound like it would make sense, except he wants out of the adjustable rate mortgage. And what we've done is 3 years earlier, when we got this 10-year arm, they saved $3,000 a year. So $3,000, $6,000, $9,000. They're $9,000 ahead in basic mortgage payments, in interest not paid. And now they're going to pay about $3,000 or so for a refi. They're still up $6,000 in savings from the initial home purchase. And now they're going to refi into a rate that's slightly higher than their adjustable rate, but it's in a fixed 30-year fixed as they want. And they believe that they're going to be in this house for potentially 10 or 15 years because prices have also increased faster than their incomes have. So it's in their best interest to do this. And yet they're still, 0.75% below what they would have got if they went with the fixed rate today. So in that scenario, in my opinion, that's a huge win. They got into the house that they wanted at a lower rate to start out. They saved, $9,000 in this example. They spent $3,000 of that savings on the refi. And now they're into a better rate 30-year fixed than they would have been if they had done this from day one. So that's a huge win. So that's kind of the scenario that I look at when I'm talking to a client about a fixed rate. So let me show you my screen. And I want to look at just some numbers here with where are we at? This, I think it's this. Hold on a second. You know what? I'm not sure where I put that. All right. All right. So you know what? Let me find this stuff after Leo gets, and we'll go in this towards the end. But Leo, let's get started with you. Do you need to share your screen right now?
I mean, you can give me sharing things. I'll pop my face on too.
Let's figure out. Yeah, let's see. I gotta figure out. I never use this, so let's go into let me figure out the technical side, because I don't usually do the webinar piece. We usually just do meetings. So let's talk about you had wanted to discuss what I want to talk about is what you think to get started, the top 3 social media apps that these guys should be using, and then if you were going to pick one to focus on, which one do you think that might work best for?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because there's a lot of different apps you can use out there to help you post your social media content on. For me personally, I've tried quite a bit of them, and they're all great in their own regard. It just depends on what you're looking for. But for me and clients that I actually do social media for, I actually have I hire a VA, and they help me distribute the content out there. And if you find yourself a good VA, you can spend anywhere from like $100 to like $200 a month on just a VA. And what a VA is, if you don't know, is you hire someone from any area of the world, and you have a list of requirements that you just tell them, like, hey, I just need help doing this part of my business. And they're like, perfect. And you charge them usually hourly, and that hourly rate can vary based on the region. Some regions you can pay them $5 an hour. Some regions like $10 an hour. It just depends on what the excuse me, what the going rate is for other people out there. And usually when you say like $5 an hour, what the heck? Like, you're actually paying them a pretty well rate if they're from another region, because not everyone has a US economy to, have to pay those prices. So you get a really good amount of value, and you help out their communities as well. So I like to go that route. But there are also other routes if you're looking to spend like, $20 a month, $10 a month on actually using tools. Now, some of these tools are free to use, so it's really on what you want to do, what capabilities you need, and what you're trying to accomplish. So for me, for example, like one of my favorite ones that I like is called Later. And I have a document too of kind of like everything spanned. Oh, cool, you found it. Oh, never mind. That's that's Anna. I thought that was my face for a
Yeah.
second.
Actually, I believe you can share.
I don't
you have
see.
the live green at the bottom of your screen?
No, I don't. I just have chat, raise hand, and Q&A.
Got it. Hey, Annie, can you give Leo access to share a screen?
Yes, I am right now. Give me 1
All
second.
right.
Okay, perfect.
Thank God someone that knows what they're doing joined us. All right.
So yeah, so my favorite one I like to use is called Later. It's basically later.com, and it's free to use. You don't have to pay anything. If you're using it for yourself, single use, it's free. But from here, you can post to all your different, you can schedule your social media post out to everyone, to all the platforms. Makes it super simple. So you can kind of set it and forget it. Oh, perfect. I see it now.
And for later in that scenario, is that for a business page or is that for personal also?
So what happened?
Awkward silence.
I know. I think he.
Awkward.
Oh, yeah, I see it now.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
Unable to start video.
Hold
It says host has stopped it, but I can still share my screen.
on.
Yeah, you
I'll
can't,
make
you probably,
co-host. Hold on.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I think I don't know why that
Sure.
is like that. You should be able to, can you share your screen?
There I am.
All right, look at that.
I'm back.
Annie, he'd taken one for the team. Like now she's,
No problem.
Thanks, Anna.
No problem.
all right.
So yeah, here, I'll drop this in the link real quick. It's kind of like just a quick way to do it, and you can. There we go. So I was talking about later, the Meta Business Suite. So this is actually a really good tool to use. It's basically Instagram, Facebook, which are the top two that I use. I don't really schedule anything out for TikTok. Later, you can schedule things out for TikTok, and then TikTok or Later will push it out to TikTok. So that's one of the benefits with Later is you can kind of post to Twitter, TikTok, all the different platforms. Meta strictly for Instagram and Facebook. I do like their tools they have on here, and it's free to use. Metercool. That's actually a newer one that came out. Really good as far as like analytics, posting on everything. There is a free version. If you start doing more with posting and just more, then you do have to pay. It's like $9 to start. And Canva actually has a scheduling tool on there that you can use as well. I haven't used Canva, but Canva has everything. You can pretty much build a website on Canva. It's ridiculous how much Canva has on their platform. If you actually go in there, and if you think about it with Canva, if you're like, hey, I need a quick landing page or something quick and easy, go in there, and I'm sure Canva has a resource. And if you don't know if Canva does or not, just YouTube it, landing page for Canva, and some YouTube video will show you how to make a landing page on Canva using their resources. And I'm pretty sure we all use Canva. And they're actually one of the top top social media platforms. I can't even say if they're content creation, templates, you name it, Canva takes over it.
Right.
They're a big player in the game.
Or
So they're,
the amount of, you know, things that they have available to you for on the just the free account, it's amazing. Like
yeah,
there's no reason that you shouldn't have an account and somewhat know how to use it, you know. Uh,
yeah,
just because it's all high quality. The nice thing about, I think the one best thing about Canva is when you're in there and you're grabbing like stock pictures or things like that, it's high resolution versus stuff you've grabbed off your phone or you screenshotted that ends up a little bit blurry. Probably the best thing about that.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They have a huge library on there. So yeah, hopefully that helps out with scheduling your content out and using platforms outside of, just opening up your phone and having a post at that moment. There's a lot of tools out there that are at your disposal. Takes a little research to find out which one's going to be right for you because everyone has different needs. But I honestly think, oh yeah, if you ever have a question, go to Facebook. That's a great point.
It's surprising how much information is, you know, shared on Facebook as educational pieces now. One of the things that Facebook is still I think my favorite platform for social media. And it's, you know, two reasons. One, because I'm old, and two, because I like I like what happens in the comments. You know, I like to see that. And I remember, you know, it probably wasn't more than 3 years ago than when Gary Vee was, that's all he was talking about is how he lived in the comments. He wasn't as big of posting as much content as he is now with his, you know, he's got multiple teams and members on those teams doing all that stuff for him. But for him, he was in the comments, especially when he was much bigger on Twitter, you know, making comments and going back and forth and following up and you know, when he would do posts, he would go in and have a response to everyone. And I learn a lot that way. Like I like to see what other people's thoughts are, as well as, you know, what's the direction of this here's the original post, what's the direction of the comments, where's it going, is it out in the weeds somewhere, is it on point, is there someone making a really good point, especially when you're on like business groups, you know, real estate, mortgage groups, things like that. That's where I think there's a lot of value in those groups. It's not necessarily the group itself, but it's in the comments of the good posts.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I'm out there, I'm in part of a ton of groups. And so the more you can engage in the comments, the more your name gets out there because they see the same profile image, they see your name, and they see the amount of value you're giving. Expecting nothing in return. That's like the biggest thing I say is like just don't expect anything in return. Just throw your name out there, add value. And eventually you find people that want to kind of learn more about what you do. And so they'll go in your DMs and start talking to you. And sometimes they already have the decision made up in their head that they want to work with you. They just want their peace of mind to be like, hey, let's at least have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I've gotten so many clients that way that it's just amazing. I actually don't really post a lot on Instagram. I actually spend most of my time on Facebook and TikToks.
Okay.
Because Facebook has the communities already built. And I kind of learned that from Gary Vee too, is once you understand where people are congregating and what traffic is going where people are hanging out, then you just want to put yourself in front of those people. And how do you do that? By putting your name out there numerous times. Like I'm not going to be the person that posts all the time in those groups. I'm going to be the one contributing to the group because
Yep.
people read the comments way more than they're going to read your actual post.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's key points. The one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was and this is a good segue because you know, posting on social media is probably our best place to go to get a lot of eyes on whatever we want to share. But I really feel like we're relying on social media a little bit too much and causing us to neglect using email marketing. And I'm such a big fan of email marketing. Leo, you might notice you follow some of the stuff I do, but even my Facebook posts tend to be rather long sometimes. And yeah, I think if you can get into an email and get into a regular, consistent, outgoing email, I think you can build a much stronger personal relationship than you can even chasing, opportunities within Facebook and Facebook groups. Um, are you seeing, email dying or coming back, or what do you think about like email compared to social media?
Email, I think, is actually just a lot better in ways that you get to build a personal relationship with people. And a lot of people kind of go with emails with the mindset like, okay, it's another marketing tool that I'm just going to blast. Like, okay, maybe I have an open house. I'm going to shoot an email out to my list, or maybe
Mhm.
um, I'm going to send out a marketing report every month and call it a day.
Right.
Sometimes that does work to a sense, but it's not really connecting. When you think about email, you should be thinking about creating a one-on-one conversation with someone for someone to respond back to you. Excuse me. And so when it comes to email marketing, the number one thing you want to do is I wouldn't say talk about yourself, but you want to share stories in emails. Storytelling in emails is by far the best way to engage your readers. And then
Mhm.
at the very end, have some type of question that ask them something regarding that experience that you shared in that story. For example, let's see, I'm gonna just talk about my first email that I usually have when I send it out is, hey, here's my story. I was an in and out assistant manager for X, Y, and Z amount of years. Tell them about where you've been, what struggles you had, and how you overcame those struggles. So I was an in and out assistant manager for X, Y, and Z years. I just felt like the hours were terrible. As I'm getting older, the hours just didn't really seem to fit my lifestyle anymore. I knew I had to change something. I just didn't know what to do. That's when I discovered X, Y, and Z. I discovered social media marketing. I started other business ventures. I started, network marketing, and then from network marketing, I was using social media to promote my business, and I actually got converted sales on there. And
Hmm.
once I realized that I was able to do that, I started realizing that I can help others do this as well. And it's not as complicated as people think it is. And so I started that segue, and I described a problem, a situation, and then I described the solution, and then I figured out how to overcome it. Now I'm figuring out, okay, now what's my goal? Now I have a mission that I'm trying to do. Now I'm trying to help business owners promote their businesses, because I know that they don't know how, and they don't have the time to know how, or the resources. So then I segue into that. And then at the very bottom, ask a question like, what's been your struggle in posting more frequently? Reply back to this email to let me know. And when you do it in that kind of way, when you're trying to come up with a solution, or you're trying to let them know a story, and then you engage the reader, and then because the reader's going to want to know, oh, what's next, what's next, and then ask them the question like, yeah, have you ever felt like this? Or like, you want to find out what they're thinking and what problems they've had. Because I've noticed, Andrew, too, like when you got in your biking accident, you know a lot of people were very, very interested in the story. And I'm
Yep.
glad you're 100, like you're on your way to recovery, and we
Hmm.
all appreciate and love those stories, and
Right.
we're rooting for you. And but I'm sure that you've gotten a lot of conversations from that as well.
Oh yeah.
And it's been because it's the storytelling. Like, you've told a really detailed story about it, and I'll say, like, it was a devastating story, but it engaged me as a reader, and it engaged so many people as readers
Yep.
to reach out to you too, and just kind of understand and start a conversation. And that's the one thing that we all don't recognize, is we all want leads, we want leads, we want leads. What we should want is at least the conversation piece, and we should be just starting those conversations.
Right. And one thing you pointed out with like, so using my accident as an example is, um, I've shared a couple of different, let's say, um, situations from the day it happened till now, let's say. And what through social media, what happens if I tell when you tell the original story, hey, here's what happened, boom, 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 I'm starting my recovery. And then let's say a week later, I post a follow-up and I kind of share what's happened, and I'll hit on, hey, a little bit about what got me to this point, like, because I'm assuming some people might not see it. But the truth is, a lot of people don't see it. Half of my people that I'm friends with on Facebook might have saw the original. The other half or third or 10%, whatever it might be, saw the second one. They might have saw the third. This is a problem that we're never gonna overcome if we only use social media. So if you and what I'm a big fan of, especially in our business, is sharing, let's say, use the idea of almost like a sitcom style of messaging, or a series, or an educational piece from 10 things, where I might talk about 2 of those 10 in 5 different emails or 5 different messages. If you try and do that on social media, it's going to be almost impossible for even the people that are super interested that want to know the next 2, or want to go back and find the past 2. If someone catches this and you're doing 10 tips to make your best real estate transaction ever, and they catch your email or your Facebook post at number 6 and 7, and they're like, oh man, I want to find out what 4 and 5 was, I really actually want to see what 8 and 9 might be too. It's going to be hard for them to follow, and what's going to happen is they're going to forget. But in shifting that message and that storytelling style, like you said, Leo, into email, now you're in total control, and you're sharing that on your own basis. Hey, every Monday, I'm going to go back into, the 10 things that I think will make the best real estate transaction for my client in 2022. And now you're sharing, 3 and 4. You talk about those, you into detail. That's where your email is. You hint to what 4 and 5 might be, or what 5 and 6 might be. And then what I like to do often is I'll actually include my past email at the bottom of that thing. If they want to go back and reread it, it's right there for them. Or it can be in a link, if you have a website where you post blogs or things like that. But I like keep it real simple. They want to keep continuing and go back and learn, see what they missed. A lot of times people will. And I learned this from one of my favorite marketers that, is how he wrote all his emails. It's brilliant, because what happens is it allows someone to kind of jump in just about at any point and start paying attention. They can get excited about what's coming next, and they can find out what they missed, at least a little bit. And if they only see what they missed, they potentially, when they see the next email, they're going to realize, oh, there's more to come, and there might have been something I missed. And they start to consider, maybe I should pay attention a little bit more, because there's a lot being shared here. And I think that's probably the biggest benefit to, sharing an important message. And anything that you're going to put your time into, it's definitely important. If you share it with one client, you should share it with everybody that you know, because some version of that can be used as value for them. And that's when, this email marketing can be huge. And I think if you're just posting to social media, like I said, a lot of people, they're fragmented of how they use social media, how your posts come across to them, and they can't follow along as easily as they can in like an email marketing campaign.
I want to segue into this too with email
Yep.
marketing. You kind of hit the nose on the head with that, you want them to anticipate or look forward to your next email. So I always end my emails like, if you're doing like weekly emails, maybe one's about a story that you did, ask them a question, and then at the bottom say like, hey, next week we're going to be talking about X, Y, and Z, look for the subject line, blah, 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 whatever it is. And then I'll see you then, or talk to you then.
Yep.
But you kind of want to get them excited for what's to come, not only just like what's presented to them. And then all those emails that you do one and done. So when you set up an email, usually just write an email, you send it out, it's kind of done and over with. What I actually do is any email that I send out for clients, what we do is we start building the automations with those emails in mind. So what I mean by that is, say I have once a week, I send an email out.
Mhm.
So week 1, week 2, week 3. Now, instead of those being one and done, what I do is for any new person that comes into my ecosystem or my email, CRM, what I do is those 3 emails that I wrote, I don't want those new people to miss out, because those people that just joined my CRM aren't going to see those emails unless they were in my CRM at the time I sent them out. So what I like to do is those 3 emails, I'll put them into my automation. So when new people come in, they get those as a nurture sequence. So
Right.
you're kind of
Okay.
building out your nurturing sequence with your personal emails that you sent, but you're doing it. So if you do like 3 a month, after about 5 months, you got 15 emails. That new person that comes in on month 5, if you're doing a 1 month or once a week, that's 15 emails that they're going to get on a sequence that you don't have to rewrite.
Right.
So
No, that
you
makes
can
sense.
repurpose that email as an automation email. So when they come in, you send it out to them. Now, there's going to be some emails that aren't, relevant to 6 months from now, a year from now. But if you're sharing stories that resonate with you, you can tweak it up a little bit and use it for any future emails down the road.
At least as
You know,
almost like a template or like a starting point for sure.
exactly. So you don't have to come up with these automations on the fly. You already have the content there. You just have to tweak it a little bit to fit someone that would join your email campaign, 6 months, a year from now. And it'll
Yeah.
still be relevant then with that story.
Well, and I think that's a great point, because we are in a let's call it we're in a calendar year business, and a seasonal business to the point, some of the data I was going to show you, which I'm having trouble with, but you know, everything, it sort of every summer there's things that we need to talk about again. And for our business, if we go back to see what we shared last year, all that stuff is probably relevant today with a small refresh. So using Leo's example, is you're keeping this scenario, or this 3 email sequence, and you're just updating it to resonate with what's happening in 2022. Maybe it's a massive reboot, but at least you have the idea, and you'll have a little bit of potential analytics to show, hey, how popular was this? Did a lot of people open this email? Did I get feedback from it? Did it get me any business? And then you can also decide at that point, probably, is, should I just let this die on the vine? Or, hey, this worked last year. Let's refresh it and put it back out. Because what's happening in June, in 2020, 2021, it's just as important now. And for our business, some of our past clients might have already seen that, but they've forgotten. And all the new people that we're talking to and in communication with definitely need to hear that same stuff again. So it becomes that idea of, repurposing it, creating templates, automations. That's a huge nugget of time savings for sure, for as you're building out your communication with your clients. Whoa, lost it.
Yeah, I'm going to share
Oh,
real
look at
quick.
that. I was like,
Because
thought I did
so I'm
something.
gonna-
I touched my mouse at the exact same time. I'm like,
So here's an example that I want to show you. Anytime I write an email, I don't write the email straight in the platform that I'm using. Like, for example, if you're using MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, your Sierra Interactive, I don't ever write the email in those platforms. What I do is I'll just open up a Google Doc and I'll write out my emails, and email number 1 usually states like, well, who the heck are you? So
right.
this is your personal story. And you can see like, these are stories. This is an email.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is like, what do you do, or what you do? So you already told them who you are. Now, what do you do? And then the next one is, how do you do it? You can totally relate this to real estate as well.
Yep.
So who you are, what you do, how you do it, subject line, this is how we do it. And then you kind of go into there and look at the very end. What an amazing journey. I'd love to hear from you about this. Are you struggling with managing social media in your business? Do you have an awesome idea? So you can see I'm asking like an engaging question at the end. I'm not trying to hard sell anyone on these. I'm just trying to create conversation. And then I do how I learned it and earned it. So how you learned something and then started earning on it.
Okay.
And then who do you do it for? So this is explaining kind of your ideal client avatar in here. So who do I do it for? And then the last one, or I think it's like 8, how you can do it for them. So this is a story about how I can do it for them.
So when you wrote this sequence, was this towards, was this meant to
Social
be
media.
towards people you know?
This was meant to be towards social media and towards people that are they downloaded my lead magnet.
Okay.
They've somehow entered my freebie that I was offering. And then once they receive that freebie, then the first email is basically, here's my freebie, stay in touch or stay tuned because I'm about to share with you some awesome advice and things. And then I just teach them on who I am. I work them through the sequence to build a know, like, and trust factor.
Right.
So that's how I created these emails with in mind. Just a preliminary, like, hey, this is just who I am, person.
And so, for example, where this becomes, I think the way I see this playing out for us is, as having something like this, and these look like there's a lot of information there, but as you type out 3, 4, 5 paragraphs about yourself, about your business, about your things, these are things that could happen in a conversation that might only be 1 to 2 minutes at a time. So they're not. It looks like a lot of information because of taking up a whole page, but it's not going to take that long to read. But once you have this, there's no reason not to send it to every new client that you start communicating with, every new lead, every new person that takes one of your gets a home value, or you meet any which way, that you get their new email address. There's no reason not to introduce yourself this way, because you've already done the heavy lifting. It's right here. Just sending it out to them is going to be the easiest. And they might pay attention to them all. They might pay attention to none of them, but it hasn't added any extra work for you. And you've now, at least now, you're staying in touch with them. If they've decided to pay attention, they're probably going to read it. If they decided not to pay attention, it's not going to matter, and none of us can change their opinion of where they're going to go spend their time. But this is a huge value, I think, having something like this. And I do a version of this when I'm following up with the leads and things that we get from recruiting. I use the same message over and over and over, because creating one message and sending it that's meant for many of the same group makes my life a lot easier. And that's really what email marketing is in a sense. You can share this one story about yourself, one story about what you do, one story about how you do it, a story about success that you have. And it can go out to Bob, Sarah, your aunt, your uncle, a new guy you met at a networking event, a vendor that you just started working with. And so very powerful, huge benefit. How much time do these take you to build out, Leo?
Probably about 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
Because I really put a lot of thought into what I was writing. So the first one probably took me just like about 2 days, because it was like my first email ever.
Okay.
But I kind of just put my story on paper, and then I started organizing it to a way that it was like who I am, what struggles I had, then something amazing happened, the turn of events.
Right.
And honestly, the way I wrote it engages those readers to want to keep reading some more. So even though this looks like a lot to read, it actually is just enough to tell a story about me and keep the readers engaged just enough. Like, let's see, like the who I do it for. I could read it like real fast, but I'm not going to read the whole thing. But where did I go? Actually, Just lost it. Okay, who I do it for. So when you read this, like, you might be asking yourself, who exactly does Leo help? It could be your name.
Right.
Who are the types of people who use, or who are the type of peoples that use social media and funnels to get more leads and sell?
Yep.
Well, I'm not even telling them that you're the one. I'm just saying, well, let me share a quick story with you. And I talk about my client, Robin here, and I tell her story, because I'm not trying to make it about me. I'm trying to make the person reading this feel like they could be the hero as well. So I talk about my clients that I've worked with because I want my reader to go in my client's shoes to understand the experience. And so, like I say, Robin knew it was important to grow her online presence, but she knew she just didn't have the time to manage this aspect of the business. She needed someone who was willing to learn and grow with her. That I'm actually talking to you, but I'm using Robin as an example. So like the way it's written here, it's to have you visualize what it's like to be in her shoes. Because when you read that, you're just like, oh my gosh, that is talking to me. Like Robin is me.
Right.
Over the span of the year, all that stuff. So and then I said Robin remodeled her whole. So I talk about like what actually happened over a span of a year. Robin was able to look back, and then she realized that her biggest months in the past were now her normal months. She's been able to grow and thrive in her business. She now ranks on the first page of Google, and she keeps getting new customers into her doors. Robin, remodeled her whole business now, and even went to purchase a new home after just 1 year of growing her business. But that's a story for another day. I want them to keep interested in what I had to read. So
that comment right there is kind of interesting because all of a sudden it makes you think, well, I wonder when that's going to come up again.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, it's based, and then I just ask them the engaging question right there, and then click reply. Let me know what you think.
With what you described here, one of the things that one of the marketing guys that I've worked with for several years, and he's a big copywriter, where he came from, is he uses a very basic writing system, and he kind of calls it's simply it's basically A is what the problem is, B is how it got solved for a particular type of client. C, so A is a problem, B is a solution or an outcome for a specific person. C is another outcome, beneficial outcome for a different type of person. D is a third type of person. And E is actually going back to A, meaning I'm going to go back and talk about what I do or how I do this, how I solve the problem. As Leo pointed out, is here's who I am, what I do, who I like to work with, and how I do it. And so with the theory, his theory on this A, B, C, D back to A is that, like Leo's saying, is he's talking about Robin in his example. So I bring up a story about how I work with a client selling houses, getting a loan, and I talk about Bob and Sarah, who are, Bob's an attorney, Sarah's an accountant, and I share their story. They're super concerned about all the finances and everything. Then I go into my next story. I also had a great success working with, let's say Jennifer, who's a single mom, first-time home buyer, very low income, but this system still worked for her. We were able to get her and her son into their first house. And then if I have a third one, let's say it's the topic is let's say someone from my cycling world, a cycling friend that I ride with. Boom. Now I've hit on 3 different sort of ideologies, business people. So anybody that sees this potentially might be able to relate to this story, how it helped a business person, or this story that was about a single mom. Well, I'm a single mom, or I'm a single dad. That I relate to that better. And this guy was able to help her. Or now it's a sporting thing. For me, it's cycling, but you might be into tennis or running or, triathlon, CrossFit, whatever it is. Now I'm sharing how that benefited them. And then I circle right back to, as Leo said, with how did I get that solution for them? So And when you're sharing that solution, I think one of the most important things is to craft it in a way that it's unique to you, not just a solution, but your special solution. It has your secret sauce in it, you know, and that's the part that causes them to go, okay, I was paying attention because it was interesting because he's talking about a problem I have, and now he's shared. He didn't even realize, but he wrote this for me because, you know, one of the most important things about me buying a house is being able to, you know, live close to other single parents because my kid's going to need to socialize, and that's important to me. And now he's going to share how he solved that problem. Might make sense for me to reach out to this guy and see if he can solve my problem like he did for these people.
Yeah, comment in the chat too if you want a copy of this, to kind of use as a template to kind of have some ideas. Type a 1 in the chat if you even want me to share this with you guys, because I have no problem sharing with you guys. If you guys are
If you want
interested
us to
in reading
just
it,
quit, we can type 2 if you just want us to call it a day. Yeah. No, this is good stuff. So tell me, let's see, what else did we want to talk about? I want to talk about your if you had to choose one, well, tell me from your edge, from where you sit right now, what do you see? Where are the top 3 apps right now? Where are most people spending their time? And then why would each of us potentially, like, what would be a reason why we might choose one of those 3 apps to be our main one to focus on? Because for me, I can't focus on a lot of the stuff. And use an example is like, I never use Snapchat, which is come and gone, I believe. I don't know. I don't know how many people on here know what Clubhouse was. That came on. I looked at that, and
now Twitter has their own Clubhouse version.
It died. I've never used Twitter, to tell you the truth. I don't know why. I just never have. My wife, who barely uses any social media, does have a Twitter account and does some stuff for her work. But, like I said, for me, Facebook just sort of made sense, which is the main reason that I kind of focus on that. And I always went back to the idea of, originally, Facebook was the only place where you could sort of control where your ad spend was going, which was a big one for me. So that was probably why I focused on it the most. And like I said, in that time, I got old at the same time. So now I'm just relegated to Facebook because of my age.
Honestly, the top 3 that I think is going to be Facebook,
okay,
Instagram, and TikTok.
Okay,
those are the top 3.
Okay.
Are there other things you can use as far as social media? Yeah, but I don't consider it social media. I consider it a search engine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just reading. I'm just reading that. So I'll just wrap this up real quick. So the search engine providers that I would use is YouTube, and there's Pinterest. Pinterest isn't actually a social media app. It's a search engine tool. So what I would actually spend my time on is more on YouTube. So the top 3 are going to be for social media: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And then your top 1 probably for search engine results is going to be YouTube for content. Yep. That's going to be a big one. Google My Business is actually going to be going away, and it's going to be mostly Google Maps. But you do want to be active on Google Maps with your content that you post on there. But that's another training for another day. But I would actually focus, probably if I was going to pick out of Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, I'd probably focus on Facebook and TikTok for those 2. And TikTok, I would just, whatever I do on Facebook, I would just, create a video on TikTok explaining the same thing. So I kind of use the same thing, just different content or different platforms to post it on.
Yep.
But if it was up to me on focusing on Facebook, what I would do is I would actually be joining a bunch of groups that are local to me, and I would be contributing conversation every day. And I would doing that in a heartbeat. A lot of local groups in your area, whether it's business groups, school groups. As a matter of fact, one of my schools, I'm doing their social media for them for for hours because I have to do community service hours for the school. And so I do their social media, and that's considered the hours that I do.
Nice.
And what's great about that is as I get more invested into doing the social media, I'll be going to events, showing them my name, what I do. Like that's just an opportunity for me to meet other people and grow my business, elsewhere, locally.
Right on.
So building out relationships is by far the best thing you could do for your business. And I think Facebook is really the platform to get local people part of your relationship building process. There's BNI groups out there. There's Chamber of Commerce groups. There's school groups. There's hiking groups. There's bike groups. There's a group for anything. If you just go to the Facebook search tool and you just type in Orange County, there's Orange County Business. Now, a lot of them do have spam groups. You got to be very extra careful, but you want to look at the group activity that is already in there. If you click on the group, you request to join, and the first, second, the next 5 posts are just not anything close to what the group's about, then I would consider that a spam group.
Right.
And you're just want to like hop out. But there's actually groups on there that like are actually engaging and interactive. Those are the groups I want to be a part of. And so that's what I would spend a lot of my time on, because I feel like you get the biggest bang for your buck by showing up in those groups. And plus Facebook kind of has a demographic of people that are your ideal client.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing too, is finding the right demographic. TikTok is actually starting to be like YouTube, where it started out with the younger generation. Now you're seeing a lot of 30-year-olds on there, even 40-year-olds. So it's pretty well. It's got a lot of the ideal clients coming on there. And yes, there's a lot of spectators on there, but agents are getting leads from TikTok on a weekly basis, as long as they're active. So those would be my two.
I'm gonna switch to some data, but I think one of the best things that Leo pointed out with each of these different platforms is by going on and even just watching, use what you see. That if you see it repeatedly over and over there, that's a great opportunity for you to realize that, hey, this is an important in the moment topic. And how do I take that information and give it my own spin and share it with my own people? You're not stealing what they're talking about, because selling houses in New Jersey is very similar to selling them in California or Texas or wherever else. The topics are very similar. You're not copying, or there's no problem with that. But if you go on to especially YouTube, you can type in one search and there'll be 30 videos on virtually the same topic. And that's probably, and if those 30 people did it, there's, in our industry, there's over 1 million realtors. That means, less than like 0.0001% actually spoke to their community about that topic. If you also do that, you're not gonna cause trouble. But
I want to point out 2 quick little things real fast while you're talking about it, because I think this is going to kind of go hand in hand. I just shared the document in the chat of this page right here, and we're not going to cover everything on here, but 2 things I want to bring up with, if you're trying to figure out what people are asking, Google is a search engine, so Google is going to know what people are asking. So there's honestly 4 different ways you can find out what people are asking on Google without actually having to do a whole lot of research. So number 1 is answer the public. So answer the public is, if you have a question on there, you go there, you ask a question like, well, buying a house, that's a topic that I want to find out from people. It's going to spit out all this information, and these are all the questions people are asking on Google when it comes to these questions. So this one right here, and it's going to show you different blogs. So I use this for inspiration on creating content for myself. I'll put it in my words, but I'll use kind of the framework that they're providing in there. And then the other one is Answer Socrates. If we do the same thing, these are all the questions that people are asking on Google that you can use to create small pieces of content. Should I delay buying a house? Hey, making a TikTok video. Now is not the time to delay buying a house. I would start off with a headline like that. And let me tell you why. These are the 3 reasons why, blah, 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 blah. I would use that to create content. Next thing is Google Trends. Google Trends, you can go in there, Google Trends, it'll pop up, and you're going to find out what people are actually searching for. Google Alerts is something where you click on it and you put in your email, and then you put in a search word like, real estate market crash or, something crazy. And Google's going to send you email alerts every day about all the articles that were written about that topic. So you stay relevant into what's going on. You hear firsthand what content is being shared on Google.
Awesome. All right, Leo, I'm going to cut you off because I got like 1 minute. But we can always reach out to Leo. I'm going to share my screen real quick and I want to jump in here. All right. Awesome. Okay. So this is our MLS and here's what I'm looking at. This is new listings. So they've pulled up data since May, obviously a little bit behind. So check this out, 4,000, active listings for May, or new listings came on the market. Look at this, in December of 21, so basically 5 months ago, it was down, half of that. So we're seeing dramatic increase in active listings. But if we look at these, look at this. This is not rate related. This is not, the war on Ukraine. This is not Fed related. This is not COVID related. This is a typical trend. It drops, it drops way down in December, and it climbs. If we come over here, we're looking at May. If I come back here, May, the difference is, come on. It's only 400 listings, difference of 400, so 10%. Coming to May here, it's only 200. So you see, all these are very similar. So inventory, as much as the media wants to share this with your clients, this pulling a data sheet like this is something to share with them. It doesn't take away the need for immediacy to buy or sell of their property because they need to get on with their life. But it shows that a lot of these agents are using scare tactics to get them to do things. And we're right on track where we are with, regardless of whatever doom and gloom theory they're hearing, we're on track for, the idea of what's being available. Let me just get in here real quick and see if I can change this. All right, so let's go here. So sold listings, this is different now. We look at this. So in May, actual sold closed deals, 3,000. When we go back over here into May, 3,600. So the difference is only 600 homes. Now this is for our county of, I think we're at 3.5 million people. For any type of home, everything. It seems like a big hike, but it's actually only 600 homes. So we're seeing, and if you look at these trends, you can see way back here in 2004 is where this started. Get right here to 2010, even here in the big recession. Here, the big recession that everyone's worried about that is going to be repeated over here. Look at this. You have nearly the same amount of opportunities to do a transaction. Yeah, there's a good chance that a lot of these properties were not as valued as high as they are over here. And I'm going to show you that next. But you still had a lot of opportunities to be a part of a transaction. There's definitely been some better months and years, over here, even, 2021 of July, it was super busy. But you can see these spikes are very consistent. It's life related versus, home values or rate related. Going into here, let's look at this. Where we're at here. Man, I thought I had, boom. All right, so I thought I had actually dollar volume. I think I didn't pull that one up, but here's current active listings. I mean, look at this. This is crazy. If we go back to 2004, it was nothing but a climb, and we had a huge peak, in 06, which was basically the beginning of the recession, and it stayed high for a while, dropped down. Now this is, 2010. We had a lot of people making a big comeback, and then active listings started to drop over and over. Let's go right here where we've been talking about this. 2019 in June. So almost what are we talking, 3 years ago, was the peak of the most amount of new listings. 13,000. That's a lot of properties. I mean, if you had buyers at that point, there was nothing. You'd probably go visit properties and be the only one that even viewed that home. We're down here now, as you can see, we're at 3,500. So what are we at, a third of that almost? And it's on the rise right now from December 2000 all the way up. It's up about I don't know, 175% more or so increase, but it's going up. So the big thing about these new listings for you guys to pay attention to is that reach out to your buyers that tapped out and see if they want to. They might be able to afford it, even if you don't think they could, that they could have sorted that out since the last time you spoke with them. But a lot of the buyers that did tap out, tapped out of fatigue of losing deals to other buyers. And just by almost doubling the inventory, if they lost out to a home purchase that had 20 offers on it, they might be going up against someone that is they're probably, let's say they lost half of the buyers based on rates. So now that same property would have got 10 offers. Let's say there's still buyers that were just lost in fatigue. Some of those were also probably would have been rate sensitive. So let's say you lost another 25%. That means that instead of competing against 20 offers on a property that they might like, there's a good chance that they're only competing with 5 or 6. Now, that puts them in a much better place to buy. And if in our world, part of our job as salespeople and customer service, however you guys look at yourself, we are in sales, is helping them understand that it is a good time to buy. And things are only going to get worse with rates and home values. Rates will fluctuate, so will home values, but home values are going to do this. They're going to keep climbing and have little drops, but they're not going to go back to, things over here where we're seeing, super low things from the past. So again, now's definitely a good time to buy. These data points are huge to look at how to sort of talk about the market with a little bit of confidence of knowing that you're sharing the right information or your perspective on that right information. You might look at these things and have a different opinion than what I do, and that's okay, because your clients are going to appreciate that because they trust and want to work with you. So looking at this data every once a week, once a month at least, to kind of watch what's happening, it's definitely valuable for you. And sharing this stuff with a story about it, how it affects a buyer, is a great way to post content. And I would probably post this in an email, versus a Facebook post. But I just wanted to share that where I'm at, because rates are the same. They're still high, and they've been higher. They've been lower. And none of these 3 charts that I showed you with the different graphs, you can see this squiggly line up and down. Rates had nothing to do with any of this. New listings, people deciding to sell. This has nothing to do with, inventory levels or values of homes versus, what the rates are today for my new home if I'm going to sell. It's everything about real estate goes back to being about life changes, and the rates and the home values and the costs, those are byproducts. And there's definitely opportunities for your clients to have big wins in those situations, but it's generally not the driving factor unless you're working with only investors. So any questions, post them in the comments. I'm not sure what we'll do next week. If you guys liked what Leo and I were talking about, and you want us to continue that, we can certainly have that same discussion again next week. If not, I'll figure out something to come up with before then. So you guys have a great week. Talk to you soon. Anna, you're gonna have to kill us. Let's see that. Stop sharing. And all right, guys.